you were born.
But this is the month that there are the most number of birthdays in my family.
Oh.
Yes.
Perhaps it was deliberate.
Mimi nakwambia tulijipanga.
It looks like the parents of those times walikuwa wanafanya vitu deliberate.
Si ndio birthdays mnazifanya mwezi moja.
Kama sisi kila mtu ni wa November.
Good.
All of us
celebrate your birthdays in the month of November.
Yes. Watu wa Valentine's.
Allah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, let's just say then where I come from ilikuwa mtu ajichagulie nyanata.
Sisi wote ni December, January actually. And it's up until the second week of January. Tumemaliza birthdays.
Thank you. If all of us were to pick their birthdays, dates, kila mtu angechukua around from 5th kwenda hapo juu to around 15th hapo katikati. We all know reason why. Yeah. Of
Any
every
date
month
before the 15th.
Yes. But anyway, good morning, Kenya. It's first day of December, World AIDS Day, being marked across the universe. It's quite important and apparent that you need to know your HIV status. It is a silent killer, and one of the data and research which was released recently shows that youth at between the age of 15 and 36 are the most affected. Have we become complacent? Have we become so more reckless? Or has the world stopped teaching the younger generation on the dangers of engaging in unprotected sex, or rather just being careful about our moves around the world? Okay, that was the president's speech, which lasted for 2 hours, 20 minutes and 30 seconds. It was touted to be one of the longest. Actually, some people are saying that, the president is tired. He talked for 2 hours non-stop standing. Yeah, for 2 hours. Exactly. At some point he said, like,
but 2 hours straight.
Exactly.
Such a long time.
But one thing I liked about him, every single word, he never stuttered. Kizungu nayo. Kizungu too.
He was prepared.
He was prepared, absolutely. Welcome, Kenya, from whichever part of the country you're watching us from, and even across our borders. People from South Sudan, how are you? We've told that you're watching. Welcome to the show. My name is Victor Olo. Let's keep this rolling. Diana. Doreen? Did I call you Diana? Yes. D. D can mean Diana.
Who
Doreen.
is Diana?
Yeah. Whichever way you take it was a slip of the tongue. So
No.
It's okay. It's okay.
You know, before the show started, one of us, Doti, who is responsible for making our voices ifike pale kwa viewers, kept calling you, and he was like, "Mbona hauitiki?"
I'm not
so this is why now.
No.
So the reason you have been in that corner going through your phone and smiling is because of Diana.
Can we move
Diana,
on?
wherever it is that you
I'm not
are.
engaging in that discussion.
There's also a new artist, Anajita Diana B.
Anyway,
Doreen.
Anyway, good morning. Good morning to your viewers. It's always a very exciting morning every day, and we always appreciate you just for tuning in. And make sure you are on board with us Monday through Thursday, 6:30 to 10 a.m. We appreciate you, and we always just try to ensure that we also give back your feedback in regards to the show. Many thanks for joining us this morning. We have a lot in store for you, from what is making news from the different dailies to the news, different conversations, interactive sessions that we have, and also how our roads will be looking like. So this morning, just urge you to stay on board up until 10 a.m. because we have plenty that we have in store and planned for you this Wednesday morning. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okelo. Sitatulia hivi. All right.
Doreen Arange Okelo.
For a moment, took me aback. I'm like, oh, okay, congratulations, D. You're still the newest,
Tunazoea.
right? Actually, the newest wife in town, so to speak. Hallelujah.
Amen.
Jane goals. Some are goals. Goals.
Goals, yes, goals. Goals.
Hey, watu wa ile side mbona leo wana
Kuna kitu, Diana is on that side. Anyway.
Hapa hakuna shida. Individually, collectively, respectively, personally.
Uko sawa? Uko sawa?
Mimi niko sawa. Uko sawa?
Mimi niko sawa.
Ka uko sawa, mimi niko?
Uko sawa.
Bas, in the wise words of BN. Na before Regina useme kitu, niwaulizeni. Nani anakumbuka the second and third verses of the national anthem?
In Kiswahili?
English. Let's focus on English. Regina, wewe ndio muimbi.
Don't do that. Do you want us, if you want me to sing, tell me to sing a Christmas carol when the Christmas.
Mimi niko nayo in Swahili.
Unakumbuka? The
Drop
second and third verse.
Acha nianze from the first verse. Ndo nipate rhythm.
Hiyo utatuimbia in the second link. Ray, good morning.
Good morning, being the 1st of December 2021. Glad you're watching KBC Channel 1. This is Good Morning Kenya. As my colleagues rightfully put, it is official. Christmas is coming. Quick question. What do you want for Christmas this year? I know people talk about gifting, going to visit friends and such, but what also would you want to receive? Material or immaterial, as we come to a close of the year? That want to go with the words of one of our viewers who is already online on Facebook, who says, he goes by the name Barasa Enoch, who says that God has done it and God will continue doing it again. And I believe so. We have so much to be happy about. We have seen 2021. It is December. 12 months has not been easy. The globe is also coming alive to the fact that we have now a new variant that is taking especially Africa by storm, looking at South Africa and Nigeria as we speak. But that it still remains that we are alive and hail. Some of the stories we're going to be looking at, we're going to try and, look at what the president said in his State of the Address Nation there, that a majority came out to say on social media was too long, that he would have given a quick summary of his achievements. One of them looking at the issue of electrification, the growth of GDP and such. Talking about GDP and matters of business and money, where we're going in the festive season, have you made intricate plans for your children in as far as the school tuition is concerned? Remember, 10 days is what the break, that's the duration of the break, the Christmas break that we'll be having owing to the COVID-19 disruptions. And from CBK, they say that they will not be capping interest rates charged by digital lenders. There you have it. So if you have been wanting government to actually regulate digital lenders, now CBK governor says they're not going to be capping the interest rates. So as you go borrowing in these digital apps that are available at the touch of a button, remember, you can pay as high as the digital lenders want you to pay. 25%, 20%, 17%. So it is at your discretion. And talking about also what is happening in world news, Rihanna, I know we're going to be talking about it tomorrow as we look at matters entertainment, but Rihanna has been given a national recognition by her country, Barbados. That and so much will be coming up as we focus on those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours, including a very sad story where a man killed his wife and their 4 children during these 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Good morning once again. I'm Regina Manyara. You can get me on Twitter at Ray Manyara. My colleagues go Traffic Marshal A1 at Doreen Arange. We have Lady Jane at Jane Wamboy and Victor Olo. Our official station handle on Twitter is at KBC Channel 1. For now, we take a quick breather. We'll be right back. Now we're starting off with just a recap of what was happening yesterday as President Uhuru Kenyatta made his 8th address of the State of the Nation, where he outlined key achievements of his government. The president said though the past year had adversely impacted in most economies and the county had recorded impressive milestones, he singled out sectors of the economy that excelled as the world was being weighed down by the burden posed by COVID. The head of state further commended Kenyans for their resilience and appealed to the international community not to shut their borders to Africa, even as the pandemic persists.
During the 8th address on the State of the Nation, President Uhuru Kenyatta urged eligible Kenyans to present themselves for vaccination against COVID-19.
To fortify our national resolve against COVID-19, and in honor of all those Kenyans that we have lost to the disease, I do urge today all Kenyan adults to visit their nearest medical facility to receive their COVID-19 vaccinations. The COVID-19 vaccines are in stock across our country and in all our counties.
His appeal coming as Kenya races against time to achieve its target of vaccinating 10 million people by the end of this year.
This new variant's profile, as for now, remains unknown. It is therefore better to err on the side of caution. By receiving our vaccinations, we will have played our part in securing not only our own lives, but also in protecting the lives of those around us.
President Kenyatta called for continued individual responsibility as the country is not out of the woods yet, especially with the recent discovery of the Omicron variant in some countries.
Now more than ever, we are faced with yet another variant of this coronavirus, the Omicron variant that is said to carry a higher risk of infection. This variant may explain infection rate spikes that we are witnessing across the globe.
The head of state hailing the resilience and sacrifice shown by Kenyans at the onset of the pandemic when the government introduced the containment measures. The head of state underscored the need for homegrown solutions in fighting the pandemic, especially on the need for domestic vaccine manufacturing, while at the same time hailing Kenyans who seized the opportunity at the onset of the pandemic to produce vaccine syringes and personal protective equipment.
A Kenyan company known as Revital, operating in Kilifi County in the Coast region, became Africa's largest producer and exporter of vaccine syringes during the COVID period. In 2020 alone, Revital exported 70 million COVID syringes to over 20 countries globally.
The head of state said with COVID-19, Kenya had strengthened its health systems by increasing ICU bed capacity by 502%, improving oxygen generation capacity, and increasing the number of equipped laboratories from 1 to 95.
The successes of his tenure, inviting you for your feedback. You can get us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1. What do you think about the president's address yesterday? Did what he said make sense to you as Wanjiku? We are open to receive your feedback. Get us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1. Now, we still keep up with what is happening in the political scene and matters of legislation, where President Uhuru Kenyatta says the constitution moment, espoused by the Building Bridges bill, must be prioritized by political actors to fix political suspicions that rock the country every election cycle. President Kenyatta, who was giving his State of the Nation address, gave the strongest hint yet that the bill could be pursued through other avenues, alluding that what didn't happen will happen.
Though the Court of Appeal appeared to have dented the hopes of conducting a referendum on the Building Bridges initiative before the next election, President Kenyatta once again criticized the judgment as short-sighted. With the hearing of a petition filed at the Supreme Court by the Attorney General set for January next year, President Kenyatta lamented that Kenya lost dearly when the Building Bridges bill was rejected.
Kenya missed the possibility to increase the minimum county allocation from the current 15% to 35%. And the logic here was to ensure that if we percolate the proposed 35% of our national revenues to counties, women should be at the center of decision-making on how this revenue is utilized. But, honorable members, this did not happen. The third loss was about expanding our national executive to accommodate a broader face of Kenya and to expand representation. This would have constitutionalized the end of the winner-takes-all outcomes of elections that creates so much toxicity and tension.
The president accusing the judiciary of rejecting a representative process, consequently muzzling the voices of over 5 million Kenyans who endorsed the bill.
If indeed, and I speak to those that need to listen to this, if indeed Article 1 of the 2010 Constitution states that all sovereign power rests in the people of Kenya and can be exercised either directly or through their representatives, the people made their voices heard with regard to the First Amendment.
The president was, however, categorical that the constitutional moment was the most urgent and needed actualization sooner.
The need for political stabilization is, I believe, the most urgent task facing Kenyans today. And it is the foundation. And it is the foundation upon which our greater justice, fairness, health, wealth, and security will be built on. And for this reason, I want to believe, honorable members, that that which did not happen will happen.
Already, there are 2 bills by the Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee that seek to actualize some proposals in the defunct bill through a parliamentary initiative.
Now, in one of his addresses, or rather part of his speech, is that President Uhuru Kenyatta assured Kenyans that no one will die because of hunger. The president, who was addressing the nation through parliament, said his administration had put in place robust measures to mitigate the impact of drought being felt mainly in the north part of the country.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has called on Kenyans to count on his administration to adequately address the impact of the ongoing drought. President Kenyatta, who acknowledged that drought has been a challenge for even previous administrations, promising to do all that is possible to ensure no Kenyan dies from drought.
The government will continue to support all vulnerable households and will endeavor to ensure that, notwithstanding the severity of the winds of drought, that no Kenyan will die of hunger. In addition, investment in community-based resilience and drought preparedness projects has also been accelerated through the support of the national as well as county governments, as well as our development partners. The aim of this investment is to improve the livelihoods of vulnerable households by diversifying their livelihoods.
According to the president, 25 billion shillings have so far been set aside since he declared drought a national disaster for immediate intervention, and mobilization of more resources is ongoing.
As we respond to the current drought, we have commenced with a livestock offtake program and initiated support to the affected citizens in a dignified manner through the cash transfer system, which is a cash transfer system of stipends to affected families that replaces the dignity of having to queue for the distribution of food portions.
The head of state, however, challenged the nation to be proactive in ensuring that the country meets its 10% forest cover and protect its prized water towers.
The Central Bank of Kenya is at an advanced stage of revising the 1 million shillings tough regulations on cash deposit and withdrawals in banks. President Uhuru Kenyatta says this will facilitate easy transactions for businesses as the economy bounces back from the COVID-19 shocks. He says though the requirements were implemented in 2016 aimed at limiting large transactions, they are not conducive for the current business environment.
6 years ago, the Central Bank of Kenya directed individuals and businesses depositing or withdrawing 1 million and above to fill a special form stating where the money is from or is going to, who they are paying or receiving the money from, and for what purpose. The tough guidelines meant to monitor large cash transactions were aimed at combating money laundering and illicit cash flows. Financial institutions are also required to keep records of cash transactions of more than 1 million shillings and report suspicious deals to Financial Reporting Centre, FRC. There has, however, been a debate on whether the transaction limit should be revised up, as the requirement is hurting the growth of micro and small medium-sized businesses which largely transact in cash. And in his State of the Nation address, President Uhuru Kenyatta has revealed that talks about the threshold are at an advanced stage.
I also asked the National Treasury and the Central Bank of Kenya to consider revising the maximum amount an individual or enterprise can withdraw or deposit from a bank that previously stood at 1 million shillings, which was not supportive of our current business environment.
The president says this will facilitate easy transactions for individuals and businesses as the economy bounces back from the COVID-19 shocks.
President Uhuru Kenyatta projects manufacturing to become a key driver of economic growth, riding on the interventions that the government has made. President Kenyatta also outlined that over 186,000 affordable housing units were constructed in the last 4 years, and the government has set up the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company that funds home buyers at fixed interest rate of below 10%.
In 2017, the government announced the Big Four agenda, focusing on universal health coverage, quality affordable housing, food security and manufacturing. President Kenyatta says the government is focused on spurring of previously dormant sectors and creation of jobs by supporting ancillary services. He instanced the Kenya Meat Commission that is now making 1 million shillings every day from 8,000 shillings daily and 3.6 billion shillings annually in just one outlet.
To enhance further the profitability of KMC, we have linked it to another dead capital that my administration has revived. The meter gauge railway from Nairobi to Nyanyuki, which has been revived under the KDF. The KMC is now using it to transport more than 200 animals weekly.
He says the interventions by the government has seen the housing sector increase investments to 2.12 trillion shillings over the past 4 years, with prices of houses decreasing due to incentives offered to the private sector.
To institutionalize this affordable housing program into prosperity, and in partnership with some of our development partners, we have also established the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. This financing powerhouse provides long-term, large-scale funding to banks and SACCOs, which in turn avails these funds to home buyers at flexible and affordable interest rates of below 10%.
On food security, the president said the government focused on farm productivity and enhancing access to quality farm inputs. However, droughts over the years have hurt food production.
So as part of our state response, we launched an elaborate framework for ending drought emergencies in Kenya. The framework focused on investing in interventions that will build the resilience of all vulnerable households to drought. This included over Kenya shillings 25 billion investments in the foundations of development of such as sustainable peace building, conflict management, water harvesting, and supply, road construction and improvement, education and training, health and nutrition services.
President Kenyatta said the government has prioritized the right to reproductive health care by all Kenyans.
Now, on to matters politics, the ODM party leader Raila Odinga says his focus, if elected president in 2022, will be to adequately fund counties to steer the country's economic growth. Raila said devolution has opened up the countries to greater opportunities, which must be harnessed.
Raila, when he met over 200 delegates from Mandera County, said Kenya is now witnessing change thanks to devolution.
Katiba mpya imeleta huru kwa Wakenya. Sivyo? Mungu sasa na sikele yenu wenyewe. Pesa inatoka Nairobi, inakuja moja kwa moja kwa hazina ya serikali ya county hapo. Na nyinyi wenyewe pale ndio mnaamua vile hiyo pesa zitatumika huko kwenu. Sasa mnaona baada ya miaka 50 na kitu sasa Mandera iko na lami. Lakini tu hii muda mfupi mbele gatuzi imekuja imebadilisha mambo.
The ODM leader urging the group to support his presidential bid as he was best suited to move devolution forward. Suna East Member of Parliament Junet Mohammed applauded the opposition leader for always fighting for the rights of Kenyans, asking IEBC to ensure the elections are free and fair, insisting on nothing else.
Safari hii nataka mchunge hiyo kura, mpige kura kwa fujo, kwa sababu mwenye macho aambiwi tazama, mwenye masikio aambiwi sikia. Serikali ambayo inakuja Inshallah kwa mapenzi ya Mwenyezi Mungu ni serikali ya Baba Raila Amolo.
The Chief Administrative Secretary of the Ministry of Education, Hassan Nur Hassan, who has shown interest in to contest Mandera gubernatorial seat in ODM party, hailed Raila for his effort in always promoting peace in the country.
Asante sana.
Amani tuliyopata wakati huo, Mwenyezi Mungu ametupatia amani, ilitokana na juhudi yake. Hata sio Kofi Annan. Kofi Annan amekuja kutembea tu. Lakini yule mtu ambaye ameweka sahihi ya kuleta amani alikuwa ni yeye.
Let's take that story about, what women are doing in as far as taking part in matters of politics, where the Registrar of Political Parties, Anne Derrito, is calling on women seeking elective positions in the forthcoming general election to acquit themselves with the various regulations so as they're not locked out. Derrito said a new regulation has been put in place which will lock out those who are not successful in the primaries from contesting as independent candidates. Speaking at a forum organized by Echo Network Africa, the registrar said it was unfortunate that a majority of those seeking election information from her office were Mani's addressing our SAM conference at Echo Network Africa. Group Executive Officer Dr. Jennifer Riria said her institution will partner and help build capacity of women seeking election positions on how to navigate the harsh political terrain.
We are going to try our level best to ensure that every person who come out to vie for election will actually have that opportunity and be supported within the law to do that and to feel that he's actually running for a post with a lot of support from us.
The women's agenda is one: to position themselves in the democratic processes and in the spaces where they can be heard.
I have learned that I need to take that step so that I can be able to go to the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. I go and get this information for myself, and I'll be able to share this information with other women.
Tujitokeze kama wamama. Mapati wanasema wanawake hawamo, lakini tuko. Tujitokeze wanawake, tusiwe waoga wa kwenda kusimama kuhania kiti.
Corridors of Justice, the suspended Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa has been charged on 4 counts, including defrauding the Football Kenya Federation of 29 million shillings. Mwendwa, who was charged before Senior Principal Magistrate Eunice Nyutu, was granted a cash bail of 10 million shillings and an alternative bond of 15 million shillings and banned from visiting the FKF offices.
After spending the night in police custody for 4 nights, suspended Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa was finally charged in 4 counts, including fraudulently acquiring public property estimated at 7.5 million shillings and conspiracy to defraud FKF 29.5 million shillings. Mwendwa pleaded not guilty and was granted a cash bill of 10 million shillings and an alternative bond of 15 million shillings, ordered to deposit his passport, forbidden from accessing FKF offices, barred from engaging the media on the matter before the court. Meanwhile, Kenyan citizen Member Ochara has filed a petition seeking to compel the DCI to take action against businessman Jimmy Wanjigi for allegedly being in possession of 7 guns and more than 700 rounds of ammunition.
These 7 guns can be able to demolish a whole population. He also has more than 700 rounds of ammunition, the bullets of high caliber in nature, more than 700 rounds of ammunition, and according to the police reports, those arms and those ammunition are more than the ammunition within Nairobi Central Police Station.
It's a call for the board, the chairperson of the Firearms and Licensing Board, to do that which they are supposed to do.
Also, the court has stopped the Bank of Baroda from taking over Thika Nursing Home and Thika School of Medical and Health Sciences Limited.
The bank had interfered with students' admission. The bank had interfered with staff at the hospital. And that inconvenience has been uplifted by the court, and they have been stopped expressly today from interfering with the operations of the hospital and the operations of the school.
Finally, Narok Senator Ledamo Lekina has been sued by a 27-year-old lady Wanjiru Gatume for child neglect and want the legislator compelled to pay her 200,000 shillings a month for the 1-year-old son.
Business. Now Kenyans should expect lower interest rates on digital loans and no shaming of defaulters if the Central Bank Amendment Bill 2021 is entered into law. Central Bank Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge says the regulator intends to ensure that the pricing model of digital loans is appropriate.
Digital lenders will no longer self-regulate if President Uhuru Kenyatta signs into law the Central Bank Amendment Bill 2021. The bill, approved by Parliament weeks ago, will give the central bank powers to oversee and regulate standalone digital lenders who are not affiliated with banks. In the last few years, there has been an influx of digital lenders, most of who charge very high interest on mobile loans and share personal data of loan defaulters. This will become a thing of the past when they are regulated, with the central bank governor saying those violating regulations risk their operating license.
Something I think which has been long overdue, but we've come all this way, and we are looking forward to its becoming really law, and ourselves moving ahead to managing or fixing this lacuna that has been there for quite some time.
Dr. Njoroge, however, says the central bank will not dictate interest charged on loans, but will instead regulate and ensure the pricing of loans is appropriate.
Having sort of like caps and things like that, obviously the answer is no. We are not going into that part of the world. But what we do is what we will do and have been doing, say on the banking side, with regard to banks, is ensuring that the pricing is appropriate.
He retained his earlier in the year economic projection for Kenya for the next year at 6% and called on Kenyans who have not been vaccinated to go for the COVID-19 vaccine.
We take a quick breather. When we return, we have so much more lined up for you, including matters business and sports. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
Bado hajanisikiliza. Ndio, kama ni kuvuruga mimi niko tayari.
Nataka kujua huu wako ni upumbavu tu ama nisikie kuzidi kichwa.
Huu mchezo utaisha lini? Atake, asitake. I will take our daughter away from this menace.
Wewe ulimpenda baba ama ulikuwa unamtumia kama vile mzee?
It's your first time. Hey, I can see what's going on. You lack experience. Why are you dressed like this? You ought to dress more like me. Hey, and what was it?
I'm so glad we went with ping pong. Lucky.
Hey?
Yeah.
有一段故事建筑一。
actually not done full payments.
When you
of me impregnating you.
Doctor,
You've only done a down payment.
And you listen.
I am helping Kenyan men do their job. I have helped your men.
I am saying you keep quiet. Can you keep quiet, Dr. Ofoneke?
What proof do you have that I've been the impregnator? The child has not been born.
The fact that you have impregnated another woman, now come damp.
Damp.
That means you can also do the same to me.
Had your sister been impregnated before? My sister's never been. No man has been able to do what I've done in this court today. 2 women are carrying my own. Call me a miracle worker.
Serikali ya Rais Uhuru Kenyatta imetekeleza miradi mbalimbali kwenye sekta ya afya kuhakikisha Wakenya wanapata huduma bora za afya na kwa bei nafuu. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254.
The Kenya we want is one in which no Kenyan should leave the country so as to receive the medical care they require.
Kila mtu amefahamu kuna linda mama na anakuja hospitalini na anasaidika hapa. Ikiwa ni operation ni bure. Ikiwa atazaa mwenyewe pia ni bure.
Hakuna mtu anafaa kukosa kupata huduma ya afya akienda kwa hospitali ya serikali.
Good morning. It is the 1st of December 2021. That's the World AIDS Day, or rather, creating awareness against HIV and AIDS. Just remember that you should not stigmatize someone living positively with this particular virus, so to speak, as well as that particular disease. You need to be kind to these people so that we can reduce stigma. We're going to be having this conversation coming up in not too long, but for now, let's cross over to the business world and look at the stories that have been making headlines, where Waste Electric and Electronic Equipment Center plans to establish 6 e-waste collection centers and 30 drop-off points to enhance collection. The center's CEO Boni Mbithi projects that this will help create 2,000 jobs in Kenya over the next 3 years. As Hibak narrates, of the 51,000 tons of e-waste generated in Kenya annually, only 1% of it is properly collected.
Waste Electric and Electronic Equipment Center focuses on collection and safe disposal as well as recycling of e-waste materials through technology and modern recycling methods. As at last year, Kenya was estimated to be generating 51.3 thousand tons of e-waste annually, with 99% of it carelessly dumped. The center is seeking to boost collection of such waste by establishing 30 e-waste drop-off centers and 6 collection centers spread across the country.
The next few weeks, we are creating new centers across the country. So we'll have a new center in Mombasa, we'll have a new center in Nakuru, we'll have a center in Kisumu. So this is part of our expansion plan, and also to create jobs. We are looking at creating over 2,000 jobs in the next few months.
This investment comes after Waste Electric and Electronic Equipment Center and 4 other companies won a grant of 15 million shillings from the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office to implement innovative solutions with the potential to create productive jobs for the youth and women. With the funding, Mbithi says the center will boost its capacity to manage not only e-waste generated in Kenya but the entire East African region.
It's a $55 billion economy that we're looking at. So for Kenya, it's an economy that can create, I think, thousands and thousands, in fact, millions of jobs across the country. Because if you look at the value chain, you will have people who are collecting the e-waste, you will have people are transporting the e-waste. You have recycling facilities like Waste Center. You have industries that will get the component.
Waste Electric and Electronic Equipment Center uses the recycled waste to provide raw materials to be used in the manufacturing of new equipment in the country.
We're able to manage up to 200 tons of e-waste in a month, yeah? So 200 tons of e-waste in a month. But because of the lack of awareness, lack of these policies, people are not aware. So you find in a month we can get up to 50 tons. So we are still operating below capacity.
Now, talking about matters sports, where Gor Mahia FC jetted back home on Tuesday morning after their 1-0 loss to AS Otoho of Congo last Sunday in the CAF Confederation Cup playoff round first leg encounter. However, sporting director Lodvik Aduda confirmed the two Gor Mahia players, Jules Ulimwengu and midfielder John Macharia, tested positive for COVID-19 and will remain in quarantine for 8 days before being allowed to travel back to the country. Gor Mahia will host AS Otoho in the second leg of the 5th of December at the Nyayo Stadium. Mombasa County Football League champions Mvita Youngsters drew 2-2 with Mombasa Wanderers in the final league match played at Mvita grounds to bag the title.
The Majengo-based side gathered 75 points to emerge victorious, 7 points ahead of Mikindani Stars, who garnered 68 points to finish second. Soweto FC was placed third with 68 points, while Coast Stars and West Ham FC completed the top 5 teams with 58 points each.
Mechi yetu ya Mombasa Women League tulimaliza na Lions Heart walichaguliwa kama washindi, na ligi yetu ya Mombasa Division 1 tumemaliza last week na alokuwa mabingwa ni Daytona Football Club, na leo hii tunamaliza ligi yetu ya Mombasa Premier League.
Junda Stars, Crossroads and Tononoka FC completed the bottom 3 teams in the league. The Mombasa County Football League brought together 18 teams.
We are taking a quick breather, but when we come back, we're going to be looking at major roads this morning to just get you to the various workstations. So do keep it right here.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
Actually not done full payments.
When you
of me impregnating you.
Doctor,
You've only done a down payment.
Can you listen?
I am helping Kenyan men do their job. I have helped your men.
I am saying you keep quiet. Can you keep quiet, Dr. Fonike?
What proof do you have that I've been the impregnator? The child has not been born.
The fact that you have impregnated another woman, now come damp.
Damp.
That means you can also do the same to me.
Had your sister been impregnated before? My sister's never been. No man has been able to do what I've done in this court today. 2 women are carrying my own. Call me a miracle worker.
The Amazons.
That useless snake should have finished you off. So it was you who planned that.
The person who pulled the trigger was you. And you made everybody believe that I was the one who killed Vicente.
He's your sister's friend, right? Eugenia. Why didn't you ever tell me that you had a sister?
You will do exactly what I tell you, or I swear you'll pay the consequences.
Why do you threaten them with never seeing their father
These
again?
are not threats, darling. If I can't have Alejandro, then I should at least get the girls back.
The Amazons.
Many thanks for staying with us. Time for us to quickly look at how the roads are doing in terms of traffic. And today we'll be focusing on Mombasa Road. This is just because of tracking the progress of that expressway. But before I bring you up to speed with how far it is and how long perhaps it will take and the different areas in which they are focusing on, at least as of now, try and see if they would actually complete the expressway by that time in which they had mentioned. Before we get to do all of that, let's just quickly look at the traffic flow in some of those areas that at least have already been opened up. Remember that as the expressway is being constructed, there's some areas that are closed or were closed. Some of them at least are opened up to just ease the traffic flow on this specific route. So this is one of them, where the expressway begins. This is the area of Mlolongo along Mombasa Road. As you head over to the city center right now, not bad at all. In fact, coming all the way is from areas of Athi River, Kitengela, outskirts of Nairobi. As you head over to Nairobi and also to the city center, this is how the area is looking like, moving at a very swift pace. And the beauty is that this is actually on both lanes, just along this specific area. Green all through, a clear indicator of no traffic at all, and that continues all the way up to areas of Syokimau, Katani Road, where traffic begins to slightly build up, but at least a manageable kind of traffic. In some areas moving at a very, very slow pace. Again, one of those busy areas. This is that one of that road there. That is the Syokimau, Katani Road, which gets to branch off from the major Mombasa Road there. This is how this entire section is looking like. But away, or actually after that, again, as you still head over to the city center, not bad at all. But like I mentioned earlier, this is one of those areas that had been closed for a while because of that construction of that expressway. But at least as of now, as we speak, it's already opened up. Perhaps this is why we are seeing what you're seeing on these roads, because at this time of the morning, oftentimes we'd really expect to be spotting or seeing heavy kind of traffic. It's the early morning hour. Mombasa Road is one of those busy roads. A lot of activities, businesses, companies, schools along this area, and that is also part of what has necessitated that expressway to at least ease on the traffic flow along this road. Not forgetting the fact that Mombasa Road also serves people that come from the outskirts of Nairobi, various counties such as Machakos and the like. So that would obviously lead to heavy kind of traffic, and that is again why we also have that expressway being constructed and slowly taking shape along this route. But coming back to the traffic flow, this is still how it is looking like in areas of Mlolongo, Syokimau. Not really bad up until just slightly past the Katani Road as you head over to areas of Gateway Mall. But then again, around this area, it's next to a bus terminus, next to a mall. So obviously, again, that heavy kind of traffic would be spotted just specifically again on that lane that is coming to the city center. But going by what you're seeing right now, we really do not need to look at any alternative routes. Clearly, also what we are seeing is because of that expressway slowly taking shape on major parts along that route. But right now, that's how it's looking like in terms of traffic along Mombasa Road, specifically areas of Mlolongo. That is how it's looking like in terms of traffic this morning.
All right, so it's time to take a look at what's on the papers today.
On the front page of the Star newspaper, Uhuru, I have achieved my legacy. Uhuru, I've achieved my legacy. In last State of the Nation address, Kenyatta listed his achievements and spelled out the challenges ahead. Key among some of the issues he pointed out the expressway to reduce travel from Mlolongo to Rironi. He talked about electricity connection. In terms of wealth creation, he said that Kenya has grown and now is the 6th wealthiest nation in Africa from position 12 in 2013. He also talked about double road network, talking about over 10,000 roads so far done, and the construction of the Lamu port. And as well as he said that he sunk over 2,500 boreholes compared to 99 by previous regimes, and 100% universal health care by 2022. That is his projection, and was, of course, the growth of GDP by 10.1% in second quarter of 2021, the highest ever recorded. That is according to the president in a nutshell in his State of the Nation yesterday's speech. Okay, the head of state speaks of corruption slowing growth, vows that BBI will be back. That is part of the discussion we're going to have in the next hour, just to at least try to understand in simple terms what the president meant during his State of the Nation address. What Kenyans lost in botched BBI, according to Uhuru. Ruto, critical of initiative, says that it was a plot to create positions. President Kenyatta on Tuesday hinted at the revival of the BBI, even as he bashed the judiciary for slamming brakes on the initiative he said would have ensured political stability in the country. He's never been so quiet about it, but as it is, he said that the BBI was well intended to address political toxicity and violence that have hit the country's economy every election cycle. That is according to him. Of course, we never lacked some of the mixed reactions there. And one notable thing is that one of the notable figures who opposed the president's State of the Nation address was Eddie Duale, who at one point was his ardent supporter. Now he said that it was one of the most boring speeches ever. That is according to Eden Duale yesterday in Parliament. There's a story here where New Zealand billionaire, 26-year-old in apparent suicide in Karen, businessman Jake Miller found hanging from a rope on the balcony of his cottage. And now he said that a 26-year-old was found dead on the balcony of his house in Karen on Sunday in an apparent suicide. Nairobi police boss, that is Agustin Thumbi, said that they are investigating the death. Friends who visited the scene said that they will help ship his belongings to his family in New Zealand. In March this year, Miller had said that he would visit Kenya because he wanted to experience new things and had no plans to travel back to New Zealand. Okay, that is as far as that is concerned. Quickly on the State of the Nation address, I've delivered grown economy, says President Kenyatta. He said that because of policies implemented by his administration, the country's GDP has grown from 4.74 trillion in 2013 to 11 trillion this year. But my question is, when the president says that Kenya is the 6th wealthiest nation in Africa, what about number 17, number 47? If you understand what I mean. Okay? And finally, we are watching you. ODM tells Chebukati. Junaid says that IEBC chairman preparing agency for repeat in 2017 polls that led to Supreme Court nullifying presidential election. Speaking hours after Chebukati made the announcement, ODM Secretary General, that is Edwin Sifuna, ODM Sifuna and party's Director of Elections, Junaid Mohammed, accused the chairman of planning to bungle 2022 elections. The Suna East MP claimed that Chebukati is preparing the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission for 2017 type of polls, which saw the Supreme Court nullify presidential polls and ordered repeat election. This is after Chebukati actually, IBC withdrew from the election preparedness team thereabout. So we'll be watching to see what will happen. All right. Jen?
Let's now move on to the Daily Nation. This is my legacy. Matters concerning the State of the Nation address have pretty much taken the bigger chunk of the front page of the Daily Nation today. Issues to do with the big push for investments since 2013, economic acceleration, restoration of dignity for our country, political stability, among many others, are just what have been featured here on this front page. And in regards to that whole State of the Nation address, it has been covered from pages 4 through to page 7 in great detail. And one interesting part that they have touched on when it comes to what rather this particular daily has pulled out from that particular State of the Nation address, it says that issues the head of state avoided in his address. According to this particular piece, there are 5 issues that stood out due to their absence from the president's speech. Number 1, war on corruption. Number 2, the runaway public debt. Number 3, the executive's disobedience to court orders. Number 4, rising concerns over enforced disappearances. Yeah, not 5. Those are the 4 issues that they have mentioned here. And they go on to talk about how one of the biggest controversy in President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration is the rising public debt, to the extent that his government asked Parliament to raise the debt ceiling from the current 9 trillion to 12 trillion. The other issue they are focused on is on corruption, and they'll actually peg this back to his addresses in 2019 and 2020. And looking at 2019, when he addressed the nation, he declared that there would be no sacred cows in the war against corruption. In his 7th address on the 12th of November last year, he steered clear of the promises that he made in 2019 when it comes to fighting corruption. And despite these many promises that he had made in line with fighting corruption, corruption still remains to be rampant in the public service with no single high-profile conviction. Just part of what has been captured from page 4 through to page 7 of this particular daily, highlighting the pointers in the president's State of the Nation address. But away from that, tragedy as man wipes out family. One of the stories that we actually had in the GMK newspaper with Regina earlier on has been covered here on page 3. And the interesting bit is the family of this gentleman say that he is a very laid-back, reserved, humble man. And as per the neighbors, they said that this is the first time they had any, domestic issues from this particular couple. But according to the reports, the preliminary reports from the police who are investigating this, there were some neighbors who said that they had a bit of commotion before all things broke out. And they said that they had an argument. It is alleged that this gentleman, Paul Murage, had attempted to defile his 13-year-old daughter and became violent when his wife tried to stop him. One of the neighbors actually said they heard the wife shouting and telling him to stop sexually abusing the daughter, and that is when the attack followed. There were said to be neighbors said they had a lot of screams from the children before everything went silent, and by the time they were getting there, the man wasn't there and the children were laying in a pool of blood, children aged between 13 and 1 year old. So that story has been covered there. Of course, I'm sure the other dailies have different angles and additional information that may have not been covered on this particular daily. That is basically what has made front way on the Daily Nation. Doreen.
Yeah, and perhaps you can begin from that story, which actually took place in Kirinyaga, and also how the PD is highlighting the same story just regarding the man, that is Murage, the 34-year-old man who killed his wife and the 4 children. The article continues to highlight that the man actually took himself to the police station and even told the police to arrest him for a total period of 6 months because of what he had done, killing the 38-year-old woman, that is his wife, and the 4 children, saying that he had also defiled the daughter sexually before going ahead to kill him. That is what is coming up on that particular story on the PD. Still on what is making the front page of this same daily, this is regards to, yes, the celebration of the World AIDS Day being the 1st of December, and today, even as the president will be leading the World AIDS Day celebration, he is also expected to grant Nakuru town a city status. In the morning, he'll be leading in the World AIDS celebration in that particular town, and then thereafter grant Nakuru town a city status. Coming to that State of the Nation address, a lot has been said so far in this morning regards to that particular speech, what came out, and even as the president addressed various issues that are facing the country, key among them being matters to do with security, education, state of the economy, the health aspect, and not forgetting the handshake, just lauding the fact that peace was restored in the country in 2018 after that particular handshake. He also went ahead to speak on matters BBI, signaling the BBI project, saying that it's actually far from being finished. He also went ahead to enumerate the various gains that the BBI document intended to bring to Kenyans, including the increasing the minimum county allocation from the current 15% to 35%. And he also further on hinted on revisiting the stalled report to recoup benefits the country stood to gain from the BBI report or the BBI project there. To a bit of some health matters now, the discussion to Western nation on shutting borders over COVID, and this is also part of what was mentioned by the president yesterday, saying that there's that Omicron variant which has taken center stage in South Africa, that Western nations need not to shut down African countries because of that. And still in regards to that, doctors now in the country are saying that Kenyans should not panic over this particular variant, and just alluding to the fact that there's still not so much global research on that particular variant, and there's also less information available, which indicates that there's little in the public domain regarding that variant. And this is why Kenyans, or better still Africans, should not be getting worried regarding this new COVID-19 variant. And even as I speak on matters COVID-19, right now Kisumu County is launching a drive to boost COVID vaccine uptake, and it has stipulated various ways in which it is planning to do this. So of course, when you get to the details, I'll be telling you more a bit about this. And they're planning to at least vaccinate about 135,000 Kenyans. And also just trying to ascribe the fact that there's been less uptake of this vaccine because of the little or less information and knowledge out there concerning the uptake of COVID-19 vaccine. And also to some politics right now, the Chap Party, or Maendeleo Chap now hints at working with Raila for a better Kenya. So even on his speak about parties joining or coalitions joining, this is just what came about yesterday, as the Maendeleo Chap declared that it will back the Azimio la Umoja push spearheaded by the opposition chief Raila Odinga, and they're also slated to bring forth or launch their manifesto, in which they will share with the former premier and see how they can come together in a coalition agreement. And yes, again, today being the World's AIDS celebration day, here as a country, we know that we've made significant efforts in stemming the spread of HIV and AIDS, and just also, as is being mentioned by the NAC CEO, that is Dr. Masha, just trying to bring forth the gains that we have made as a country. We also know that there's some gaps to be filled, and in regards to that, there's still a lot that the ministry is trying to do to ensure that they completely perhaps stem the spread of HIV, and key among them is trying to come up with ways of just producing local ARVs. So even as we get to the details, I'll be telling you more a bit about that and how the ministry is planning to do that. In a nutshell, that is how the PD looks like this morning. Regina.
Well, you're still watching KBC Channel 1. Thank you for tuning in. Remember that you're live, and we welcome your feedback. You can get us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1 News. I have a sample of what has been captured on the Standard this morning, being the 1st of December. Let's start off with why the world is marking the HIV and AIDS Day, which happens to be the 1st of December. Now, so many strides have been made and inroads have been made to try and contain that disease, one of them being the fact that HIV and AIDS has been moved from life-threatening to a chronic but manageable
actually a chronic but manageable life sentence. Statistics indicate that, it has been a long journey from the darkness to life, and the AIDS pandemic has claimed almost 35 million persons in the last 40 years. Having been downscaled, there's still a lot to do because it has no cure. Now, this particular article here has gone further to give the statistics and the numbers of, how many persons, especially in the country, are living positively with HIV and AIDS, as well as the inroads that have been made. And one of them is the issue of antiretroviral therapy. And some good facts here is that at the year of Magic Johnson's retirement, that's when the world got its first antiretroviral therapy triple dose drugs 15 years later after the pandemic had began. So if you want to catch up with what has been done so far, especially locally, now looking even at the African situation, is that more than 17 million African lives have been saved through the PEPFAR. And there's so much that is going on, and we're going to be engaging further with experts in regard to this matter as the world marks the World AIDS, celebrating World AIDS Day 40 years on. What have been the hits and misses, and where are we at? That has found itself on the front page of the Standard this morning, as well as take home from President Uhuru Kenyatta's last and 8th State of the Nation address yesterday. He picked out some areas, one being energy, health, as well as infrastructure, as some of the successes of his tenure. As the world marks 16 days of activism, now Kenyans woke up to a sad story here, and it has found itself on the front page of the Standard this morning. And it's about a man who took himself to the police station and confessed to having murdered his wife and his 4 children. Here's just a sneak peek of what transpired. So according to this particular article, the recluse is suspected to have killed the family, was shunned by parents, and according to the area chief, Muthoni, the wife to the late wife, or rather the wife to Paul Murage, who is aged 35 years old, who is also alleged to have abused and sold bank, had a tumultuous relationship with his 38-year-old wife, which ended tragically on Sunday when he killed his wife, Millicent Muthoni, daughters Nelly Wawera, aged 13, Shermit Wamboi Muthoni, aged 5, sons Gifton Bundi Muthoni, 7, and Clifton Njoke Murage, aged 1. So it is believed, and according to neighbors' account here, some neighbors have claimed that Muthoni, who was a casual laborer and an ardent churchgoer, came back on Sunday evening and suspected that her daughter had been defiled by Murage, and then an argument ensued. Though neighbors say that they had this commotion, none came out to actually see what was going on. The lifeless bodies were still found in their beds with injuries on their head and various parts of the body. An axe and a slasher that have already been picked for exhibits, is said have been used for this gruesome murder. It's very sad that even as we mark the gender-based violence, activism against gender-based violence, that this is happening. Well, life is precious, but it seems that people have a price to it. People have put a tag to it, a very sad fact. Just to remind you that we are on the campaign trail, and the question here has been asked. We have been talking and watching what Oka is doing, and this particular article here is asking an analysis, so to speak, why Kalonzo holds the key to a coalition deal. Do you think so? So, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wiper Party leader, has been quoted in this particular article, and I want to read it as is. I would be the most stupid fellow under the earth to support for the third time a presidential candidate without a measure of reciprocity. As we say, a day in politics is quite a long time, and if you need to keep watching that space. You need to know who is with who to what
end. And talking about who is with you, who is with who, tomorrow Manchester United will be taking on Arsenal, but tonight's EPL fixtures read that Aston Villa will be taking on Manchester City at 11:15. Everton will be squaring it out with Liverpool. Now that's another tough for Everton as they face rivals Liverpool today. The Toffees have suffered 5 defeats in the last matches. So those that walk alone, I'm sure you're already anticipating a win from that. Southampton will be taking on Leicester at 10:30 p.m. while West Ham will be taking on Brighton at 10:30. Watford versus Chelsea at 10:30 p.m. and Wolves will be taking on Burnley at 10:30. There's been a lot of talk as you know in regards to who won the Ballon d'Or and why, and there's been talk and speculation that Lewandowski was robbed from the FIFA award. What is your take? We are open to feedback. You can get us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1 News. For further details in regard to both those stories that have been making headlines, they're also available on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. As we take a quick breather, we are not done. We have so much in line for you. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
Bado hajanisikiliza. Ndio. Kama ni kuvuruga mimi niko tayari.
Nataka kujua huu wako ni upumbavu tu ama nisikie kusidikichwa.
Huu mchezo utaisha lini? Atake, asitake. I will take our daughter away from this menace.
Wewe ulimpenda baba ama ulikuwa unamtumia kama vile mzee?
Useless Nick should have finished you off. So it was you who planned that.
The person who pulled the trigger was you. And you made everybody believe that I was the one who killed Vicente.
He's your sister's friend, right? Eugenia. Why didn't you ever tell me that you had a sister?
You will do exactly what I tell you, or I swear you'll pay the consequences.
Why do you threaten them with never seeing their father
These
again?
are not threats, darling. If I can't have Alejandro, then I should at least get the girls back.
The Amazons.
Back to the program. This is still Good Morning Kenya at exactly 8 a.m. Time for us to check at how Mombasa Road is looking like. Remember that we are still tracking the progress of the expressway, and this is where we are looking at the traffic flow specifically on that route, bearing in mind that some areas are still closed just to necessitate that construction process, and the other ones which had already been closed are already opened up. So this is why we are looking at this specific route, and perhaps you can begin from areas of Syokimau, at least as of now. try and see how the route is looking like. Remember that earlier on there was barely any kind of heavy traffic as you leave areas of Mlolongo coming to the city center, where the expressway actually begins from areas of Mlolongo, cutting through sections of Mombasa Road, areas of Uhuru Highway, up until areas of Wayaki Way, terminating at James Gishuru Road. That is how the expressway is looking like in terms of the stretch which it covers. So looking at the traffic flow this morning, not really that bad on that section that gets to branch off to Katani Road, but away from that, as you head over to areas or sections of Mombasa Road, this is past Mlolongo area, coming to the city center using this specific stretch or route. This is how it is looking like. And perhaps you might be wondering why there's so many different colors there. The cocktail of colors there just shows you the magnitude of the traffic on the different areas. As you leave areas of Syokimau on that section or lane coming to the city center, heavy kind of traffic there. In fact, not moving at all, just at a standstill. But again, also on major parts along Mombasa Road, and specifically around these areas, I can tell you for sure that traffic police always stationed up early in the morning to try and see how best they can control traffic, given the fact that it is one of those busy roads because of various reasons, and sometimes obvious reason. It's the early morning hours, so basically you'd expect to see heavy kind of traffic. In addition to that, there's still an ongoing construction, so obviously a lot of activities on this route, not forgetting the fact that it also serves counties outside Nairobi, or the or just beyond Nairobi as well, and also the kind of businesses, companies, industries, schools along this route. So obviously a lot of activities and amenities along Mombasa Road, and this is part of why there's usually heavy kind of traffic, and also what necessitated that construction of the expressway, to see how best they can ease traffic flow. So again, back to that traffic flow, this is how it is looking like. Nothing is changing, still heavy kind of traffic as you head over to the city center, but at least leaving areas of CBD, coming through areas of Mombasa Road, sections of Syokimau, Katani, as you head over to areas of Mlolongo, Kitengela, Athi River, on that section, or particular on that lane, moving at a very swift pace, no traffic at all. But at least also, much as there's a bit of a traffic, not a bit, much as there's heavy traffic on this section, areas of Gateway Mall, Syokimau, on the lane that is coming to the city center. This is just specific or in between that area up until areas of Cabanas there. So at least past there, still it's opening up a bit up until areas of Imara Daima. Actually, this is on both lanes. So traffic begins to really build up heavily on both lanes as you leave areas of Cabanas, coming through Imara Daima Estate there, past Imara Daima as you head over to the city center. And this is also particular as you leave CBD coming to the estate. But then again, also around this area, this is the Cabanas area. So why we are seeing that heavy kind of traffic, it's also because it's actually next to a bus terminus. There's a footbridge here, so there's a lot of activities on this particular area. So this is also why we are seeing the heavy kind of traffic, but at least that opens up a bit just past areas of Imara Daima as you head over to the city center, and actually as you leave CBD as well, coming to the estate. So where there's really heavy kind of traffic past Cabanas area is as you are leaving city center, coming through the estate. The same also being witnessed on this bypass, that is the southern bypass, as you reach areas of Airtel House. But then you can still use this as an alternative route. This is the Likoni Road. There's still some bit of ongoing construction on this stretch, and this is between areas of Jogoo Road and House of Manji, whereby they're still expanding that route. Part of what has remained in terms of construction on the entire Likoni stretch is the non-motorized transport system. So that could be again a good reason as to why we are seeing that heavy kind of traffic, particular on the lane that is leaving the bypass, leaving areas of Mombasa Road, coming all the way through that entire stretch up until areas of Jogoo Road, House of Manji, because that is how the Likoni Road is, covers in between areas of the bypass up until Jogoo Road. So because of that ongoing construction, big piece of the NMT on the section between the bypass and the House of Manji, and the ongoing construction between House of Manji to Jogoo Road, that could be a very good reason as to why we are seeing that heavy kind of traffic. But nonetheless, you can still use this as an alternative route if at all you're coming from areas of Mombasa Road, because past the bypass there, I can tell you for sure the heavy kind of traffic that would be spotted as you come to city center, and especially in areas along Uhuru Highway, quite unbearable. But then still, this could still be a good alternative route. And if you do not want to make do with that heavy kind of traffic on areas along or around Enterprise Road, then you get to branch off to this one of those slip roads there. This is as you leave areas of Likoni Road. That is the Parkside Village Estate, one of those roads that heads you over to areas of Plainsview, connecting through South B, coming through that entire stretch up until you get to the city center, that is the CBD. So you can use that as one of the alternative routes, branching off to areas of South B, or alternatively come through straight with the same Likoni Road up until stretches of Enterprise Road, the roundabout there, past that particular roundabout, coming still through straight with that same stretch up until areas of Jogo Road, where you connect to City Stadia as you head over to City Center. So you could use that as one of your alternative routes, because like I mentioned, past the bypass, which is actually past this particular area, as you head over to the City Center, much as it may look a bit of green, just slightly past there, as you head over to CBD, but in sections or areas of Uhuru Highway, I can tell you for sure, heavy kind of traffic along that entire stretch. But at least past the bypass, as you head over to areas of South C, they are not that bad. While there's again heavy kind of traffic is next to Capital Center, which is also next to a mall, next to a bus terminus. So obviously what you're seeing is basically what you would expect to see on that stretch. But at least in terms of traffic, not that bad past that area. And this is as you come to the city center. So that's how it's looking like this morning, at least on that entire stretch. And Pastor, just to remind you why we're looking at that road is because of that expressway that is clearly also taking shape along Mombasa Road. But at 7 minutes past 8 a.m., that's how it is looking like in terms of traffic along Mombasa Road.
Absolutely. When you talk of infrastructure and roads on Mombasa Road, that is part of the State of the Nation address that President Uhuru Kenyatta talked about yesterday. Actually, he said that with the construction of the double-decker highway running all the way from Lolongo to Rironi, it would take one roughly 24 minutes from one end to the other, apart from the usual 3 hours one would take from that particular point A to point B, that is from Lolongo to Rironi. And so he was proud of the infrastructure that is given. Okay, let's get into this and let's have a discussion, just trying to understand what the president said yesterday. And to make it simpler, even for the Mwananchi, we really want to analyze, including the body language, including whatever happened in Parliament yesterday, to understand better, because it's, most probably his last State of the Nation address. Joining me to handle this is, I've got two gentlemen in the studio, Daniel Orogo, who is a brilliant mind. Good morning.
Good morning.
As well as Abdullahi Ahmed, who is also a brilliant mind as well.
Morning.
Morning. Today, we just need to understand how it happened in Parliament. You were in Parliament, starting with you, Ahmed. What did you say from your side of view?
Well, first of all, I was very proud as a Kenyan that with all the difficulties we are facing, our state, there is the difference between the problem people face and the state. You could see the presence of the power of the state yesterday in Parliament. The security, the checks, the plainclothes, the snipers everywhere. So that was showing that Kenya is still a very stable country with the myriad of problems that people are facing. But yesterday's speech or yesterday's State of the Nation was a bit different, because we had a president who is serving his last term with less than 8 months in office, who is juggling on what to say, excuse me, tell what Kenyans. And when he came late, apart in the usual hours of Parliament is 2:30, but he came 3:45. That is way late. But he stayed there late up to 6. So when he came, the president, first of all, you could see the president has put more weight compared to last nation address. The suit was almost similar, but he has changed maybe the tie from blue to pink. The body language was very authoritative. Someone who is bold, someone who is confident, someone who is mind juggling on what to tell Kenyans. And I'm sure the people who wrote that speech was really stressful on what to tell Kenyans, because if you read carefully the speech and you listen to what the president was not saying, he was never wanting to mention his failures. He was just trying to tell us, with all the difficulties I had from 2013, he referred to when he was in Parliament. He referred to how he was welcomed by his close associate in Parliament, Raila Odinga, Musalia Mudavadi. As we said, he never mentioned the Deputy President, which is a bit unfortunate. That is a constitutional office. It is not his prerogative to decide whether the name of the Deputy President should be mentioned to Kenyans or not. I mean, sometimes you act decent. So my take was a man who has had a vision, but when the BBI came, then the big four agendas stalled. I also want to say that, for the record, it was reported last month that all the projects that were started during Kibaki for housing, 225 houses for the public service, have not been funded from 2015. It was just reported in Parliament last week. So that shows that government is progressive. So what was planned, most of the projects that the president is claiming to be his legacy, some of them were started way back in 1970s, like Lamu. So we're talking of 40-something years project. So he finished it, but the Kenyans who started a vision at that time, most of the other infrastructure were also, the ground was laid by the coalition government of Kibaki and Raila. He did some bit of the expressway and the SGR and few things here and there, where economists are also questioning the value for money for those projects. But by and large, what I took is the president was telling us that this is our country, we need to safeguard it, it's all bigger than us, and we need to be hopeful as Kenyans.
Absolutely. Daniel, just to bring you in, it lasted for 2 hours, 21 minutes and 30 seconds. Perhaps the longest speech by the president. Yes.
Well, I think it's normally on the State of the Nation address, the president is obligated, to come in terms in always a report that is within the constitutional mandate of Article 132. I think that suffices to say that. But more importantly, I think you mentioned the appearance of the president and the information that appearance was sending out there. And I think, like my colleague said, look, here is a president who's given the last State of the Nation address. And the delay, I think, is occasioned deliberately to keep the country waiting with bated hope, that we are having a country and seeing a president for the last time, serving 2 terms, trying to give an account of the 3 most important elements of the State of the Nation address. And that is updating the country in terms of security, the international obligation, and Article 10 on the national values and principles of good governance. So I think that played out well. But more importantly, I think it's one, like you said, the body language between him and his deputy.
And his deputy when he arrived.
Again, he's on down south. The mention of I think is reminiscent of how his journey in the legislature, because without going into the speech, I think that we will discuss. But I think talking, what he was saying is like, one, his appearance as a legislature before, was occasioned by his welcoming in, that people understand that he's a young man who, was getting into the house and need to be assisted, and, need to be taught, the ways and the alleys of the National Assembly. But also saying that it's important that he was sending, because, the sitting yesterday was sending some a bit information yesterday. You could see exactly where the Honorable Raila Odinga was sitting together with Musalia Mudavadi, and every time he keeps mentioning,
perhaps for the sake of the viewer,
pointing something that is probably the mention that even his being as a national leader is not by him alone, is by people assisting him. The 2 gentlemen that were seated there. But again, like you said, there are issues that were avoided in the speech.
Just as a matter of clarification, Daniel, 1 minute. Where Honorable Raila and Musalia Mudavadi sat, most of the time they sit at the audience section, the upper decker. So for the sake of the audience,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Even because that then there are parliamentary procedures, that then parliamentary order. So I think even in the sitting, probably, I am looking at it, what informed the kind of sitting arrangement yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I like my colleague said, nothing was accidental yesterday. Everything was well arranged to send an information. Be it was a State of the Nation address, but much more was on unspoken. The things they could have seen was an unspoken, because like you said, one was the delay. The delay was, like said, it was occasion. You know, it was his time, and you could even see, as reported in the dailies, that other members of parliament felt it was taking long. He himself felt that was really taking long, as was going to take a sip of of water again. But it was more important that he affirms his authority, that the remaining period of time is him to fulfill his legacy, is him to still strike a semblance as the full authority, as the head of state, as a father figure, and as a one who is interested in getting us to a country where we would see somebody who is, I keep on saying, that a safe pair of hands that would take over from him.
Exactly.
I think that was a confirmation from his speech yesterday, unspoken.
But when you say Ahmed, that yesterday was his time to give self-appraisal, you didn't expect him to say, I failed in this, I failed in that, I failed in this, I failed in that.
No, you see, he will have said that these are some of the challenges we have faced.
Which he talked about, actually.
Which he did, but
albeit,
you see,
briefly.
When you are the son of a former president, who is the fourth president of this country, and you are addressing Kenyans, it should also dawn upon you that people will analyze you, judge you, say a lot of things. But a statesman and a president who was given the highest job, we say the president is the highest employee in the country. So being honest with your speech and say that I made some mistakes is not a weakness of a man. But by and large, when you look at as my colleague has said, Article 132, Article 10, he did not address Article 256 on the issues of the national security. We have a lot of extrajudicial killing in the country. A lot of people are killed in the slums. We have a lot of road accidents. We have terror suspect escaping from. So when you ignore that part of your mandate, it begs the question, why is the president avoiding security, or rather insecurity? But one thing that the president, as my colleague has said, that delaying was showing that he's still the president, he's in charge, so he doesn't have to come 2:30, he can come whatever time he wants.
He's still in control.
He can stay there up to 6 and no one can question him, because he is the president. But deliberately ignoring the deputy president was not also, it might be politically good for him, but it's the same guy he was praising 4 years ago. So having that commandeering of having red ties and white shirts, and the internet never forgets. So the principle of the president cannot change with these situations. So deputy president and him were together. It's decent, you just mention him. You don't have to ignore him. He doesn't know that his candidate is going to win. Maybe Kenyans will rebel against him. So what the president focused on his legacy, comparing his government with the last 3 governments, comparing himself in how he has structured our governance, comparing, trying to tell us how he has improved the economy and how it is now doing better than before, which is still debatable, because all those things that he said, how did that trickle down to the Mamambogas? So still some things he might have praised himself. And as I told you off air, the biggest headache for the people who wrote speech was to picture a president who was leaving in 8 months in the best way they can. So they struggle. They struggle.
I will come to that shortly. But Daniel, just to pick some of the things the president talked about, he talked about the infrastructure, the expressway, health. He talked about the Lamu port. He talked about he sunk over 2,500 boreholes. The GDP has grown by 10.1% in the second quarter of this year, the highest, actually, according to him. Kenya has gained more wealth, more than any other country in Africa, and as well as the 6th most wealthiest nation in Africa. We are in the right path, according to the president.
Well, I think for him, I think the reference is that, and that's why I said I agree with my colleague who talked about when you are called upon to answer to the State of the Nation address. The point of it is that your success, has to be mentioned in that. And you see, it's international standard.
Yes.
Normally you see even President Obama delivering his last State of the Union. I think much of it is focusing on the deliverables. And here is a catch that we keep on forgetting, Victor. One is when you saw the president, his term in 2013, just the moment he took over the reins of power, there was a discussion about the Jubilee agenda, and that the Jubilee agenda about infrastructural development, the Jubilee agenda about economic recovery, the state of cohesion in this country, because that then was after the ICC and all these things were taken. But you see, even as that was happening, there was a declaration that the Jubilee Alliance by that time had got an agenda for Kenyans. Come the second term, that agenda metamorphosized, and then it became the Big Four agenda. And then in 2018, another agenda was added, and that was, the handshake as agenda of the national unity. I think the most intricate balance the president has to make is to assure Kenyans that, in the 2 terms that he's served, there is a link between him getting consistent with delivery on the Jubilee agenda, with the delivery on the Big Four agenda quizzed together. But also making sure that there is a unity of a country. I mean, you would ask, and he articulated this very well in the speech yesterday, giving an account of infrastructural development, giving account of economic viable programs that he's done. Giving an account in the health sector. And one thing that interests me about discussion on the health yesterday, I think he gave an account, because we as a nation, I think sometimes our memory span sometimes becomes shorter. And it's bequeathed the head of state. This is why I said it is important that the head of state outlined what is done in the most difficult time of COVID-19. I mean, he mentioned about, dealing with tax issues, during the COVID-19. I think he's there. He mentioned about, the time when he mentioned 2 companies that took time, took that as an advantage. One is providing COVID-19 vaccine syringe. Another one is providing for COVID-19 vax globally. And they are from Kenya. So for me, as much as this requires a lot of interrogation, because I think speeches like this sometimes even has to be debated in the parliament. Most of the State of the Nation address, and I don't know what will happen because the parliament has gone for recess. I'm just really wondering after, but the State of the Nation address traditionally always being debated in the parliament afterwards. But I'm looking at it in a time where now we really need to critically look at the State of the Nation address yesterday, so that parliamentarians and the leaders who are representing people begin, to sieve into through and tell us exactly the realities, the practicalities of what the head of state said yesterday.
One funny thing, one funny thing is, as I even bring Ahmed here, it usually comes after recess. Okay, but then now it came on a day that the Jubilee Party was supposed to have the NDC. It coincided. Last week people said that it was not a coincidence, it was not an emergency. But then, politically speaking, it was well crafted. We are looking at a situation where now politicians are going to be now tuko sawa. We are free. The president has spoken. It was his last presidential speech, and that's it. Sasa, the way they say kaende, right?
Yeah, but you see, even when he talked about the company my brother talked about is Revital in Kilifi. There is a lot we don't know about what happened there. As he said, you can't just take whatever the president said for the face value. So it must be interrogated. The president is a man who has a deputy. They fell out. Whereas, after he is caught, if you look at the journey of President Uhuru Kenyatta in the last 9-10 years, the first 5 years, he was not attacking Ruto or even mentioning anything about him. He was always saying, my brother, my brother. Tactically then, it was, that time, he was not in good books with Raila. So he had to maintain whatever he had with Ruto. Now that he's leaving, the president was telling Kenyans, first of all, he mentioned resilience. Kenyans are very resilient, yes. But also, they have what you call, I normally say that there are no dearth of inglorious and nakedness among Kenyan politicians. If we do not have, we have politicians in Kenya, we don't have leaders. Leaders think about how to improve people in giving them services. The ones in parliament currently, you might say, they will be among the worst parliament we ever had currently. Because there were only 127. Maybe that was even deliberate.
Yeah,
we saw Mili Odhiambo on one side, Duale on the other side. That is how funny politics is in Kenya. Mili Odhiambo was the one shouting from the rooftops in parliament how, you know, unpresidential, or she used very undignified language, you know, about the president. And I want to tell Kenyans that we should differentiate between Uhuru the person, Uhuru the president, and the presidency. The presidency is our national unity symbol. So we should all respect it. Who occupies is an individual. So you cannot insult the presidency.
Did we see that yesterday? Did we witness that?
Well, if you looked at Duale, from the body language, when the president, he almost lost his speech when when he saw the president passing. Meaning, he's either trying to tell us what he's not trying to tell us, in the sense that he said it was one of the most boring speech we ever had. That is the same Duale who was saying, I will throw myself from KICC for Ruto and Raila. Or rather, Ruto and Uhuru. For majority leader. So sometimes even as a... First of all, these guys need to know that they were given positions of privilege. They are not better than us. They've just gone to Kenyan schools. They have attended... They breathe in the air of Nairobi. They don't provide us with the sun or oxygen. So they're just ordinary human beings who got privileges my friend and I didn't have. So what they need to do is, when you become a member of parliament and you're addressing the nation, regardless of how much you remove your personal emotions, how you feel about Uhuru, you discuss things objectively. What he succeeded, I can tell without any fear of contradiction that President Uhuru has been tolerant with Kenyans. People have been writing, he had even to disband his Twitter account because we were trolling him. Is it? But there were incidences where the security apparatus were using force or you know, overstepping their mandate. But yesterday, the man I saw, the president of this country, he was telling us, look, I am gone. This is your country.
It's a wrap.
Whatever I did or I did not do, I am not going to be part of it because I'll be out of it like any other citizen Kenyan. What do you do? Because you remember, he also mentioned how we need to come together and work together. When he was mentioning how Raila and Musavali welcomed him in parliament. You know, that shows that we all need each other.
Daniel, when he talked about how the two leaders welcomed him, actually he went back to the day when he came into parliament as a nominated member of parliament, then came back as a member of parliament of Gatundu South. Again, he came back as a minister. And the two gentlemen who, that is Raila Odinga and Musalia Mudavadi, honorables, are the people who welcomed him.
And he also mentioned that in the last speech.
Exactly. So when you look at his speech, he mentioned Raila 3 times. Musalia once, his deputy 0, politically speaking.
And that's what I said before, that some of these silent but non-communicated information talks so loudly about someone's posture, about his future aspirations and his future political desires. Well, if my colleague just mentioned that if the internet doesn't forget, we would try to flash back on the previous State of the Nation address, on the previous appearance of the president with his deputy, you know, clad with clothes that are similar, speaking from the same language, smiling every time,
still young people,
consulting, and that digital generation of leadership that we saw in 2013, you know, to 2017. But of course, the political architecture has changed. The language is changing drastically, and it's pointing towards a direction where the president is actually being presumed to have chosen the successor. And you see, you could easily tell, like I've said, I mean, no mention of the deputy. And my colleague is saying whether deputy, he still belongs to the presidency. The deputy president is part of the presidency until otherwise, because that is what is dictated in the constitution. That's why we don't have a vice president and have a deputy. These two are constitutional pair. And it's quite difficult for anyone to be ignored. But again, like you said, constitutionally incorrect, politically correct. That there is a foresee. The president has praised the relationship between him and the former premier, and for him is really a matter of boldness. He's unapologetic about his relationship with Raila. Even in the last State of the Nation address, always trying to hammer the deal about BBI, and unfortunately, like you mentioned it, according to him, other people sat at the corner and decided, to seal the fate of Building Bridges initiative. And that really spelled on the issues that he said what we lost. Because he went again and articulated what we lost by the courts overthrowing the High Court on the Court of Appeal, trying to overthrow BBI. But I think he's hell-bent on the fact that his relationship with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga is non-negotiable, is non-apologetic, and that would definitely have an effect about his successor and his succession politics. You understand, and this is why I say it's reminiscent of the fact that the president has said so much that the time he was in the legislature, the two gentlemen were the ones who were in the forefront of showing him the corridors. But you see, that is a physical pronouncement. But then there is other pronouncement in it. The pronouncement in it that we did not see is that, we began. For him, he's saying, these two gentlemen, we began being legislature. We've been together throughout. But there is no problem of us being together even in the future. And he said very well, and that is what he was trying to communicate without not saying it. He even mentioned by the fact that while he was a youth, and his youthfulness as a legislature, somebody somewhere held his hand, and he said, even in my presidency, the youth can do it. Because I was a youth by that time, I was shown that somebody else can do it. And he has no problem. His relationship with these two gentlemen has no problem with it. So all in all, avoiding a lot of what he's saying that, he is interested as a head of state to leave power and to leave privileges. But the two gentlemen, either of the two gentlemen who was welcoming him back into the state of legislature and is journeying with them. That is what he was pointing, because you've asked us to be very candid about it.
You're trying to put it as open as possible.
As open as possible, because he didn't say that, and that is what what was outside there. But you see, allow me also to say this. The unity pact between the leaders, and I think this is what also he said yesterday, that even if, one thing President said yesterday, that probably he's interested in resuscitating what was in the Building Bridges initiative.
Exactly.
He might not be calling for it because he would look like flogging a dead horse. But he is interested to say that, as a head of state, he would be interested to have a conversation about inclusion, about expansion of executive, about ethnic cohesion and ethnic harmony before and post 2022.
Let me just quote him as I bring you in, Ahmed. He said, and I quote, "We cannot behave like the proverbial ostrich and bury our heads in the sand. A constitutional moment does not resolve itself simply by being ignored." The High Court actually, and the High Court and the Court of Appeal ruled against the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, that is 2020, driven by the Building Bridges initiative. And he said that it's not all lost. And we've heard Honorable Raila Odinga at some point saying that reggae has taken, a sabbatical and it will be back. Are we trying to say that at one point we will dance to the reggae tunes?
Well, I think first of all, the president has also on the other side proved that he doesn't respect the constitution. On the other side, when you take a jab at the courts and you say few men, well, the president needs to know that the judiciary is an arm of government. just like the presidency. Now, whatever that is in the Constitution, the interpretation is done in the High Court. It has gone to the Court of Appeal. Those are also Kenyans who are judges. Now, they have just gave us what we employed them to do. Judges look at the evidence. They look at the facts you present before them. They look at the Constitution. What does the law say? Now, if I was the president, first of all, he needs to know that the court said that he cannot start this initiative as Uhuru Kenyatta because he is the president. Now, the cornerstone of public participation in this constitution is why all of us are saying that people must participate in every action the governments want to take. Now, when you an outgoing president and you're taking a job at the judiciary, it's not a good image, because you're also intimidating judges, telling them that you can't call our court of appeal. These are the most learned, competent judges in Kenya. So when they give that judgment, it's good you respect it, because this is not your farm. So it's a country that belongs to 50 million Kenyans. That's what the court said. We must all respect it.
Yeah.
That is what. But when BBI, as we speak, is unconstitutional, null and void, it's now in the Supreme Court, so we wait for that. Expanding the executive. You know, if we say Kenya is a constitutional democracy, it means that the one man, one vote decides who becomes the president, and then the rest will go home. Because if you tell me that we want to bring inclusion, now the top 5 communities in this country, if they share the 2 deputies in the Prime Minister office and the Deputy President, where do you leave the rest of 42?
Okay.
Inclusion means we all have clean water, our roads are very safe, we have security for all of us, people in Kibra can access electricity, schools, health. He talked about having 26 dialysis machine and now 600 plus. Is it 603? But I've listened to Kandara MP yesterday on KTN. She said, like, health sector in especially the countryside is not functioning. The standards, Pogisio was talking about level 5 hospitals not standardized. So everything is not as rosy and good and perfect
but
as
you have
the
to
president.
remember that health was devolved. So
it is, but it's still, the chunk of money remains, 85% of our money budget remains at the central government. So what we need to do is, at the national government, the president needs to focus on how the people in Kapedo and those in Mandera access the same standard hospital, but not, favoring certain region with having more resources and other region having less resources.
I'm interested to understand one thing, that now, moving forward, in political circle right now, the NDC will be convened, the declarations will be made, and perhaps somebody said that NDC did not take place because of the presidential address, the State of the Nation address. Perhaps we would have witnessed a divided house. But then now, in 1 minute, Orogo, what do you expect politically now?
Well, I think the Jubilee NDC was purely postponed.
Yes.
On the, on the prediction that would have happened before, the State of the Nation address, there would have been probably a divided. You see, it's not the first time. We've seen there is a time, and like my colleague has mentioned, when President Kenyatta's State of the Nation had been interrupted. You can remember there's a time.
Whistles.
Yes.
There was a whistle that was blown, and
he just laughed it off.
He just laughed it. He had actually stopped and looked at them, and then just laughed it off. I would really wonder, because then such incidences are unprecedented, and of course they happened occasionally. It's not even that first time. It could have happened even before, even in Moi. Moi equally had some time during one of the address in Parliament. So I think it was on an intelligence that because NDC probably wasn't going to, it was for Jubilee, I don't think it was really going to end well.
Yes.
Especially for the members of parliament who are affiliated, to already UDA wing of it.
Yes.
Because that then Jubilee, the purpose of calling for NDC sometimes is also to affirm the authority of the party leader and also to reconvene and reconstructure the political party. That could have not ended well with some members of parliament. So I think it was strategically devised so that it happens before, it happens after the State of the Union. And also my worry is that right now, what really occasioned the recess of the parliament so that the NDC for Jubilee might go on. I think it will now.
During recess.
It will really go on, because that then can now, the parliamentary group and NDC can now be convened. But you see, sometimes I say that some things might not really be legal, but people play politics at the expense of constitutional, at the expenses of legal provisions. If someone would have really exploited the constitution of Jubilee, then it becomes illegal that it's after so many years. Neither have they have an NDC, neither have Jubilee have a parliamentary group. If you look at the provisions within Jubilee Party constitution, that is very unconstitutional.
Okay, all right. I'm told we have just 1 minute to go. Allow me to treat that as your closing remark, because there's another program coming up. Ahmed, on that, we expect now political fireworks to start blazing in 20 seconds, if you can, please.
Yeah, I think the president will try and salvage the party and talk to his members and tell them what are we going to do next. I don't think they are going to achieve much. Most Kenyans parties have not survived more than 2 cycles of elections. ODM has stayed for some time, but they were not lucky to win the presidency. So what we are expecting is we are not even sure what Jubilee and ODM are going to agree on. So we just need, as a country, we should not have election violence. All political leaders must stop their political rhetorics and make sure that they speak to something that is very objective and what they need to do for Kenyans. Right now we are grappling with food prices and everything else, So a lot of projects are still lingering and have not been completed. So we have a lot of other things to talk about. And we wish Kenya is going to be safe after election.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, I wish you had more time. But, wanasema things have to be done kimpango, and pango is we have to end it at that particular point. We've been talking to Daniel Orogo and Abdullahi Ahmed, who is also a journalist, and Orogo is a political commentator as well as analyst. Thank you so much, gentlemen. That was just a review of what the president said. We talked about his body language as well, what we should expect moving forward. I think moving forward, gentlemen, we now are about to see President Kenyatta a politician now.
Absolutely.
He's still the president.
He's still the president, but he's a politician.
So we are to see that. Okay, we are taking a break and we come back. Much more coming up. Talking about disability. You need to understand more about that with Genuine Boy coming up.
Kama bado hajanisikiliza. Ndio. Kama ni kuvuruga mimi niko tayari.
Nataka kujua huu wako ni upumbavu tu ama nisikie kusidikichwa.
Huu mchezo utaisha lini? Atake, asitake. I will take our daughter away from this menace.
Wewe ulimpenda baba ama ulikuwa unamtumia kama vile mzee?
It's your first time. Hey, I can see what's going on. You lack experience. Why are you dressed like this? You ought to dress more like me. Hey, and what was it?
I'm so glad we went with ping pong.
Lucky.
Eh? Yeah.
有一段故事建筑一座城堡，会放进去。
Our leading businessman is leading from behind. The mighty Kinyanjui.
Hii si haki. Kusema kweli nilipaswa kwa nimemaliza masomo siku ya leo.
Na si umalize by the way, nani amekukataza? Na unasinya by the way.
I, Theophilus Atito, from Kisumu City, the land of the great people, I'm vying for the topmost position of this institution.
Atito, you can make me your first lady.
Mr. Man, what is funny? Nothing, I just wanted to know how it feels to have a trust.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
My name is Dorothy Lowakto and I'm a wildlife warrior.
Working for elephants is the most special thing and very beautiful.
This is the first community-run elephant orphanage in Africa.
They will not make in life if they are not with their families. We get them and rehabilitate them instead of leaving them to suffer in the wild.
This is Wildlife Warriors, and I'm Paula Kahumbu.
It is not mine.
He has the strength of a god. I saw it with my own eyes.
He is not a god!
Samson, the Philistines are upon you.
My strength is now your strength. Look what you have been. My name is Samson, and you will face the wrath of God.
When I was admitted, I could pay. I did my own transaction. I paid for my admission.
Yes, yeah.
But by the time I'm being discharged, I couldn't see my phone.
Wow.
So I couldn't pay for my. Someone else had to do it. I could still see bright colors, but I couldn't tell details anymore. And that's when it hit me that I'm actually going to lose my sight completely. I begged to die so many times. I would wake up and I'm like, why am I alive? I thought we agreed yesterday I should have died. And then I'd be awake.
If Pete was sitting next to you right now, what would you say to him?
Our plan is in motion as of tonight. No, I must fire. Are you out of your mind? You are one strong man. You are feeling okay? Amen. Where are you right now?
I'm the only person who doesn't want to see your plans going south.
Think about what I just said.
Think about what?
It's none of your business.
Perfecto.
What's perfect?
It's none of your business.
Well, there you go, baby. Like Grandpa Stu used to do. Get your hands on them, punish them, stretch them, submit them, whatever you'd have to do.
The only
only legacy that matters now in professional wrestling is the dynasty.
2 minutes, and it's 2 minutes for Marshall to survive against 2 men. Oh, it's filthy Tom Lawler!
It's like some kind of Contra street soldier. He's got the claw.
Oh, yes!
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us this far. We want to continue with the program, and right now we want to move on to the next discussion, and this is all about the forthcoming International Day for Persons with a Disability that will be marked this Friday, the 3rd of December, a day that has been set aside to focus on matters concerning persons living with disabilities. Now, to help us with this conversation today, I have 3 guests with me in studio this morning. I'll start with the lady to my immediate right. She is Phoebe Nyagudi, who is the Director for Social Development at the Ministry of Public Service, Gender, Senior Citizen Affairs and Special Programs. Good morning and karibu sana. Next to her, we have Father Peter Wambulwa, who is a member of the Dawn Orione Fathers. Karibu sana, Father.
Thank you.
Thank you for making time to be with us. And to my extreme right, we have Richard Manyara, who is the project manager at Orione Community Training Center. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Jane.
Thank you for making time to be with us today.
Asante sana.
All right, now let me start with you, Phoebe. Now, in line with the forthcoming International Day of Persons with Disabilities, let's start by understanding your representation under the Ministry, of course, of Public Service and Special Programs, looking at the Social Development Department. Tell us a bit about that.
Thank you very much, Madam. And I'll say good morning to all of us. As a department for social development, we are in the Ministry of Public Service, Gender, Senior Citizens Affairs, and Special Programs. In the State Department of Social Protection, Senior Citizen Affairs, and Special Programs. And I come from the Directorate of Social Development, actually where this is seated. It is the responsibility of the department, together with the stakeholders, to mark this day. It's a day that has been marked severally from 1992.
Yes.
Yes, and it is a day that is very important to persons with disabilities, the government, and the society as a whole. It's a day that people with disabilities, they have to come together and celebrate themselves. Look at yourself. What have you achieved in the whole year? What are some of the, the targets that you set for yourself as an individual, as a country, or even as a worker where you work? What are some of the targets that you have put down that you want to achieve? So at this time, we just come and evaluate what we have achieved so far, and celebrate where we have done well, and where we have challenges or met challenges, we can make strategies on how to go about the strategies.
All right.
Yeah, so it is just a day for celebrating ourselves and celebrating the people that have worked with us and brought us so far.
All right.
Yes.
Now let me come to you, Father Peter Wambulwa, as a member of the Dawn Orione Fathers. What do you represent as an organization?
Okay, fine. I should start by saying our congregation was founded in Italy in 1895 by Saint Luigi Orione. He said, according to history and what we have seen written, that in every person shines the image of God.
Yes.
So he was powered by this message, and he felt that it was good. He looked around in the society and felt that people with the disability, I'm sorry, because I've been told that the language has changed. So I'm addressing as a priest, not as a specialist in the language of what Phoebe could perhaps tell me at the end of the show. That according to him, he felt that the people who are having some disability in life were kind of discriminated. So it was in his vision to begin centers to be able to care for these people. And he did it very well. He founded centers in Italy, in Brazil, in Argentina. And now, as a congregation, we work in 36 countries around the world with the vision of trying to reach especially people who have disability.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, let me come to you also, Richard. You know, given you are the project manager at the Orione Community Training Center, what does the center do essentially in line with persons with disability?
Right, thank you so much. Now, just to add on what Father Peter said, yes, we have the Orione Community Training Centers, and here in Kenya we have 2 centers. One is in Murang'a, where we have 40 students, and the second one is in Ongata Rongai, a place called Kandisi, where we have 70 students. Now, we work with children and youth living or with disabilities, mental conditions and syndromes, conditions such as autism, cerebral palsy, and Down syndrome. And our work is organized in 3 main areas of special education, rehabilitation, which includes physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. We also have an aspect of health and nutrition. And the third area is vocational training in farming. So this is how our work is organized. And we have our students from the ages of 3 years to 18 years. So these are our activities on a day-to-day activity. This is what we do at the center.
Oh, fantastic. Now, I'm looking at the theme for this year, which is leadership and participation of persons with disabilities towards an inclusive, accessible, and sustainable post-COVID-19 world. Let me come back to you, Phoebe. Looking at this particular theme, because for so many years, we've always been talking about inclusivity and participation when it comes to persons with disability. How much progress have we made as a country?
We have made some progress. I can't say that we have really reached there, but a lot has happened, because formerly you find that there was a lot of stigma associated with people with disabilities, where it was felt that if you have a disability you cannot lead, if you have a disability you cannot perform, and therefore there was that, you know, people look down upon you, that even if you are given a responsibility to be a leader, you will not be able to measure up to, you know, the requirements. But we have seen a lot of improvement in that line. Why? Because we have put laws in place, laws that really discriminate or outlaw discrimination to persons with disabilities. And again, what has really worked for us are the affirmative action measures that have been put in place. And these are put in place to ensure that people have been left out, as some are also given the ability to come up, and so that we have a level playing ground. So the affirmative action measures have really supported persons with disabilities to be able, you know, to be considered as leaders. And I can say that, for example, there is a requirement in every government that 5% of employment, not only in the government but also in the private sector, 5% of people that they employ should be persons with disabilities. You know, that one give a leeway to bring people with disabilities on board, and when you bring them on board, you will train them, you will make them useful members, and they'll become leaders. So those measures that have been put in place has really worked for us.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, let me come to you, Father. You know, when we talk about inclusivity for all persons, and this also includes persons living with disabilities, from where you stand, how does that look like?
Can I say this, that looking at the example that we have in our project, persons with disability in the beginning were considered to be full-time dependents on others to do things for themselves. So in line with the theme of this year, necessarily not to be a leader to lead somebody else, but among the activities that we really want to highlight, the center is able to help the children and the young youth to do one thing that I believe even you like, to use toilets by their own. So the center has been able to train most of those young people to go to toilet by their own, which something in the beginning was you have to do everything for them. So this for us we feel is a good progress.
Yes.
And also the project, as we look forward to it, is to help them lead their own lives, be free, so that they don't sit in the corners of streets asking people to give them money, but they can do their own life. And one thing I must say before I end is that the center also has an area where perhaps Richard will highlight more.
Yes.
This is a place where we have farming project. And some of those the youth, grow their own vegetables. And at the end of the day, even if they leave the center at the age of 18, 20, 21, they're able to manage their own life. So that is a sign of leadership. So leadership, according to me, is not necessarily I have to lead you, but also be in position to manage your own life. And this makes parents to be free, so that the parents with the children or youth with disability can get time to do other things, rather than sitting in one place taking care of one family member, and yet they could be having other siblings.
Leadership to you is empowering the other individuals to be able to stand on by themselves. Now, let me come to you, Richard. Looking at this aspect of inclusivity, clearly inequality has been a problem that has fueled the aspect of inclusivity. From where you sit as the project manager, how are you going about to just ensure that equality is maintained and inclusivity is something that each and every individual gets to enjoy, regardless of the disability that may be in place?
Thank you. If I look back from when the center started, practically 10 years ago,
yes,
and make a comparison on where we are, and I agree with Madam Phoebe that yes, we are making progress. But there is still much more that we can do, especially when we start to talk about matters to do with inclusivity and equality. Why do we have much more to do? It's because there is a lack of an awareness about disability. And people tend to think that if you have a disability, you have negated your rights as a human being. So the first step for us really is to create an awareness. And that's why the 3rd of December is really an important day for us, just to further this agenda of awareness creation on disability rights, the inclusion that we are advocating for, and also the participation of persons with disability in our societies and in our communities. For us as an institution, really, we've been trying to do this by through our living testimony, through our daily activities, where we are able to go around our villages, picking up our students and bringing them to the center using our buses and our transport system. Just this aspect that the mother or the family is encouraged to bring out their child to the pickup point is already trying to create an awareness. Because when we create this an awareness, then people tend to know that these children are with us. This reality is present. But then there's another gap when you look at this progress that we are trying to make. When you look at the context of the laws that are there, in the national context and the international context, so many laws are there,
yes,
so many frameworks, so many institutions, offices. But then there's a very big gap between the law and the impact that it has on the daily life of persons with disability. And that's why we are here today, just to talk about this, how we can bring the law, the offices, the institutions to really impact in a very practical way in the lives of persons with disability, and especially children and youth with intellectual disabilities, because for us, they're the most vulnerable. The capacity to take consent, to give consent is not there, but then we tend to keep them in the corners. We tend to assume them, simply because people are not aware. And in this ignorance, that's where all the discrimination, the stigma, the stereotyping is coming from.
And you know, that's actually one of the areas that, you know, most people struggle with when it comes to visible and invisible disabilities. And I like the fact that you've brought in the aspect of invisible disabilities, because now, how then can we improve awareness among the greater part of the population to understand that even invisible disabilities still constitute disabilities that need to be understood, and also include these individuals in each aspect of everyone's life?
Thank you. That's a good one, because we tend to, I don't want to say promote, or rather concentrate in one aspect of disability than the other. But again, the underlying factor is the ignorance. And that's why, together with partners, just like recently, we just concluded a joint workshop on disability awareness, a joint workshop that we did together with the Strathmore University School of Law and the Embassy of Chile here in Nairobi, where we had a training for people working in this reality, professionals, police officers, local authorities, nurses, teachers, just to try and bring this topic to them. And the best way we can really advocate for that is to try and mainstream and make conscious that there are other disabilities apart from the common ones that we know. Because again, mental conditions and syndromes are invisible, but people aren't aware. So through these workshops, practical skills and training, just to tell a police officer, look, if a child is lost and is brought to the police station and is not able to express himself, probably he could be living with a condition of autism. But then nobody is aware about these conditions. Nobody knows how to treat a child or a person with an intellectual disabilities, because this awareness is not there. So the only way is to try and mainstream mental conditions and syndromes in the curriculums that we have. Like for instance, on the 3rd of December, we are inviting to our institution, because we'll be celebrating this important day at the Don Orione Center. We are inviting universities, hospitals that we have already invited, primary schools, secondary schools, local authorities, to come and interact with this reality, because that's the only way. We need to come out of our comfort zone and go and meet this reality on the ground, and then look for ways that we can really, in a very clear way, get to know the challenges that they go through. Because the moment we do that, the moment we see this reality, we cannot remain indifferent. We cannot remain ignorant. So it's an invitation for us now to start to enter into this reality, because it's not an easy one.
Yes.
You can imagine, it's not easy, it's not cheap, it's very expensive, because you need to have barrier-free environments, you need to have medical assessment, you need to have the intervention. Like we said, we work in 3 main areas. That already in itself shows you how important it is to have a multidisciplinary approach when you talk about mental conditions and syndromes. So the first step for us is an invitation to come out and meet this reality where it is. That's the only way that is possible to see the testimony and the progress that we want to see tomorrow.
All right. Now, let me come back to you, Phoebe. Looking at our country, given we are ripe in the political season, and there comes in both levels of the government. From where you sit, from where you stand, do we have the political goodwill to ensure that even persons with disabilities are involved in something as grand as the elections that are forthcoming?
I think they do. The government, we have that goodwill, because one thing, what is important is that the structures must be put in place. Once the structures are put in place, I think enforcement is what is left. Yeah, it is a requirement that in every county there should be representation of persons with disabilities. So it is up to us, people with disabilities who are politically minded, to make use of that, provision that has been given to us. And I know that when you go outside there are many organizations that really support in civil education to ensure that people know their rights and that they can be counted. They can also participate in politics. Yeah, so that I think is important, because it is already in our political laws that persons with disability are encouraged, to be part and parcel of politics. And at the same time, there are political parties. Yeah, they're supposed to be able, to accommodate or to embrace persons with disabilities. That when they do their nominations, they should think about, ensuring that persons with disabilities are also nominated, because most people cannot go to this. There are people try to go for elections. There are some of us that have been elected as members of parliament and as women reps and all that, but I think a lot needs to be done. It is expensive. People may not be able, persons with disabilities may not be able to do it, because you need to move around. You need to go and talk to people, tell them your manifesto, what you want to do for them. So it is important that you move around. So sometimes what is really putting people down is they are not able, because they don't have the resources to enable them do that.
Okay.
But they can do it, because that everybody is allowed to do it. Yeah, and then the other thing that I wanted to say is that when we have structures in place, for example, a lot of what he has talked about, is marginalization of persons with disabilities. People thinking that when you have a disability, you cannot lead. So unless we create that awareness, and that is why the government has a structure in place where from the lowest level in this country, we have lay councillors. These lay councillors are supposed to help the country, the families. We are trying to strengthen the families so that the families will be able to, look at their children as any other children, whether they have disability or they don't, so that at that level they can support them to do what they really like for themselves. Yeah, because if that awareness is not created from that level, people may not come out, to exploit their potentials. So we say the families should be strengthened so that they take their children to be the same, make them go to school, help them go to school. And this idea of stigma and marginalization of families, when you have a disability, it is not only me, Phoebe, that is going to be marginalized. It is also my people, my parents, my brothers. Yeah, they are associated with me. So there's that stigma. And because of that, people tend to conceal children with disability. And when we conceal them, we are denying them the right to participate. We are denying them the right to go out and pursue their potentials. So it is important that that awareness is created and people come to realize that whatever people are saying about disability, that if you have a disability, it must be a bad omen. If you have a disability. So these things really put families, they don't want to release their children to go out. They don't want to release even their elder people with disabilities to go out and, fight for their right. Some of these positions are not given. You have to go and fight for them. So if you don't have that support from your own family or from the community where you come from, it is difficult. It's starts from the family, but it should go out of the family, and people should be able to embrace you and to support you as they support anybody else. And the idea that if you have a disability, you may not perform, those are stigmatic things that are supposed to be, talked about, and people should understand that a person, once they have gone to school, once they have the necessary, skills that they
and qualifications.
Then they can do anything.
So that goes back to the ignorance that Richard was talking about.
Yes.
All right. Now let me come to you, Father Peter. Looking at the role of the clergy and the church as a whole when it comes to ensure that we also get this political goodwill from our politicians in the levels that you interact with them, what do you feel is the responsibility that you have as the clergy to ensure that politicians understand that inclusivity involves every individual?
Okay, the church runs a lot of such institutions. Because if we could go around and count around Nairobi, I know Cheshire Homes, I know Mother Teresa, I know Don Orione Fathers, I know quite a number of congregational priests and nuns who take care of people with disability. So, as I said in the beginning, number one is to recognize that they are created in the image and likeness of God, and therefore they need movement. They come to church, we see them, some of them are very qualified. So in jobs where for example, we cannot ask them to sprint like Omanyala, because that they cannot do. But we can even organize sports that are in their level. That much we've tried, and I really want to thank the church, because I've seen these days when they build, for example, once again on the issue about lavatories, I've seen that they build lavatories, and they're always indicating this is for the people who have disability, and this is for there is that kind of, as Richard has said, awareness among the society that these people, they are like us. So we need to create places for them in all areas. If we need a secretary, if she is using hands, let her get the job. But so we don't say somebody has to have this and that before he's given this job. So I believe on the area of the church, we've done our best, trying to recognize them, not necessarily to give them opportunities where it's possible. And also, even if we don't give them opportunity to work, but we also feed them. It is part of the demands of the church, the 7 acts of goodwill. One of them is to feed the hungry. So the church does a lot of charity to feed families of people who have disability.
Okay.
On that much we recognize, and the church does a good job there.
All right. Now, Richard, looking at the fact that even the theme is quoting a sustainable post-COVID-19 world, how has the pandemic, affected the gains that we had made when it comes to conversations involving persons with disabilities?
Yes, the pandemic has affected persons with disabilities maybe 3 times more as compared to other people or other sectors of the communities and societies. But for us, it has been different, really. COVID-19 for Don Orione Center has been really an instance to show to our community first in Ongata Rongai and where we serve, that those that we think are disabled are actually the most able. Why am I saying this? When the COVID started in 2019, the first case, everybody was scared, everybody closed down, and all these things happened. But for us working in the community setup, it was really quite a challenge for us, because when we tell our students to stay home, and this child does not only depend on the education part, the academical part. He or she doesn't depend on only this. She also depends on rehabilitation. Physiotherapy is very important for them. Occupational therapy, speech therapy, and also the life skills training. Yes. So it was quite a challenge for us how to really manage this situation. So yes, we followed the protocols. We had to close down, but then we had to have a system whereby we did home visits just to follow up on the children at home. But then also this tended to be a bit challenging to implement because then of the protocols and the risks that were coming in. But then we looked for another alternative through the center again, through our students. We were able to create an awareness of COVID, going around the communities, training them how to make hand sanitizers, placing posters all around the places, because we felt that the sooner we are able to get over this, the faster it will be for our students to resume their normal activities. But it wasn't mainly the case, and the situation went on escalating. But then through the job that we've been able to do through the years, and with the support of the donors, we started to see how our neighbors were suffering, loss of jobs, families struggling to feed their children, the economy taking a downturn. So we made applications to a number of foundations through our center to help the community. We gave food donation, food packs to over 1,000 families, medical donation equipment to our local health dispensary, Olekasasi. So in this way, and also we had a feeding program for the children, 400 children for 4 months. And in that moment, if you look at it in a very deep way, those that we considered as disabled were the ones now coming back to give an answer, a reprieve, a solution to us who we consider ourselves abled. In fact, there was an article that ran in one of the dailies, "The Disabled Feed the Community." In that moment, people started to appreciate really the presence of children and youth with intellectual disabilities in our village, because it is them who are able to feed us when we weren't able to do it in the normal way that we used to do before. They helped us keep our doors open, not only for them, but for the whole village around, to such a point that we entered into a memorandum of understanding with the local county government of Kajiado, a joint emergency intervention program, where we realize now, yes, we are serving our population of 70, but we know the statistics aren't clear, but we know at least 10 to 15% of our population lives with disabilities. So if we are serving 70, what other numbers are out there that are not able to receive this intervention? And when we did this memorandum of understanding, it was in such a manner that we needed to bring more children to the center, just to give them emergency rehabilitation to prevent them from regressing. Because you can imagine a child with cerebral palsy missing 2 sessions of physiotherapy. They regress in just the gain that they had made maybe in 2 sessions or in a month or 6 months, because just the capacity or the ability to stretch out the arm maybe took 2 months to achieve that. Just to lift the arm, stretch out and say hi. And then we are closing down the schools for 6 months, something that is outside our scope. How many more are regressing? So through this memorandum, through this project, we were able to receive 360 children from Kajiado North sub-county coming to the center to receive emergency intervention in physiotherapy and in the educational aspect. So in one way or another, COVID was an instance to show the ability that those who we consider disabled or not important in our societies, how far they can go and how much they can do for us if we treat them with dignity, with love, with respect, and with acceptance. And I really hope and I pray that each one of us, because also we tend to put a lot of emphasis on politicians and structures and all this, but then it's an invitation again to each and every one of us. If we do something for them, the answer maybe is 3 times more.
All right.
So we need
now,
to focus.
On that particular note, Richard, you know, as we bring the conversation to a close, maybe your call to action message and just how can we all join in celebrating this day that will be marked on this Friday?
How you can join in? First, definitely I would like to extend the invitation on behalf of our directors and on behalf of the center to join us at Orione Community Training Center in Kandisi, to come and interact with us, to see the testimonies, what we are talking about here today, to see children who have made progress that nobody thought they would, to see youth who are running their own farming projects and income generating activities when nobody believed in them, to come and listen to our partners, our leaders who have believed in us, and they also have a testimony to say this can work. So join us in celebrating at the center, and also join in any other reality. Visit a home, an institution that works with people with disabilities, and learn. That is how we can make this reality more visible, and when it's more visible, when we talk about it more, we'll be pushed definitely to do much more.
All right, let me come to you, Father Peter, in line with your call to action message and just advice on how everyone can join in marking the International Day of Persons with Disability this Friday.
Okay, I'll get to what Professor Wangari Maathai, when she speaks about a burning forest and everybody was there complaining that the forest is burning. But then she speaks about a little hummingbird that goes around bringing water and trying to put off the fire in the forest. Looks like the big birds go around saying, what time will that fire go off with your little beak? What time will you put off the fire? But then the bird answers in that story of Professor that I'm doing my part. I'm just putting off the fire that I'm able. So there are so many people with a lot of disability in Kenya and elsewhere in Uganda, in Tanzania, and all over the world. At this moment, we as a center, we are just putting off the fire where we can. And the call is to allow as many Kenyans as possible to accept that we have people with disability. They are people created in the image and likeness of God. They have capacity. They can do as well as we can do. We can give them opportunities, we can grant them all the necessary work, then they can give us always a good result. And as I want to say, as Richard has said, during the COVID-19, I mean, when it came in immediately, we felt that that was the moment where the families can come forward and bring forth these children or youth to have food. Even if they are, because many families stopped going to work. So it was more difficult for them at home to feed them.
Yes.
And in that context, I believe that the center did a good job by asking the families to bring these people in the center and at least have a meal, just to put off a little fire.
All right, put out the fire do what you were supposed to do, play your part. Now, Phoebe, also maybe tell us a bit about the expected activities from your department and also your message to our viewers today when it comes to the International Day of Persons with Disabilities.
Thank you very much. This year is as any other year, and the day of 3rd of December is a very important day for all of us. As my colleagues have said here, that is a day that we create a lot about awareness about issues of disabilities, what programs are going on around in the country, where can they get services when they need them. So this is the day that people come and even exhibit what they do so that people can get to know that if I need this problem, this is where I can go and get it. So this year around, as we do it every year, every county in this country will be celebrating the day in their own levels. Yeah, where normally they are being convened, those committees are convened by the county commissioners, and then other officers within the county, particularly the disability officers within the country, the social development officers. They come together and other stakeholders, and at that level they bring people together to celebrate the day of disability. But during that time, we normally rotationally we go to various counties to celebrate it nationally. This year round it is going to be celebrated in Nairobi, and we are going to have it at Kenya at the KICC conference center, where we are expecting that people within Nairobi will come there for the celebrations. What we are going to do on that particular day, bring us together. We will be singing, we will be making merry.
All right.
And then we will expect that our guest of honor will speak to us, telling us what the government has achieved and what is there for persons with disabilities and how they can explore.
All right.
Can I just say something?
We have to end at this particular point. We have overrun actually, but we have to bring this conversation to a close due to the interest of time. Remember, we'll be marking the International Day of Persons with Disabilities this Friday, not today. It is on the 3rd of December. And with us in studio, we have been speaking with Phoebe Nyagudi, who is the Director for Social Development under the Ministry of Public Service and Special Programs, Richard Magana, who is the Project Manager at Orione Community Training Center, and Father Peter Wambulwa, a member of the Don Orione Fathers. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. With that, we bring to a close Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. I'm Jane Wambui.
Ili kupata sikiza tuni hii, Isaiah chapter 40 verse 8, bonyeza star 811 star 963 hash.
Wakati mwingine unaweza kujipata umefinywa pande zote na unaona kama shida yako ni kubwa sana, kama hakuna nguvu ambazo zaweza kuitatua, lakini ni vyema kujua kwamba kuna Mungu mwenye nguvu na ambaye hachoki kamwe. Isaia mlango wa 40 mstari wa 8 inasema, je, wewe hukujua? Hukusikia? Yeye Mungu wa milele, Bwana muumba miisho ya dunia, hazimii wala hachoki.
Ili kupata sikiza tuni hii, Isaiah chapter 40 verse 8, bonyeza star 811 star 963 hash.
The Amazons.
That useless snake should have finished you off. So it was you who planned that.
The person who pulled the trigger was you. And you made everybody believe that I was the one who killed Vicente.
He's your sister's friend, right? Eugenia. Why didn't you ever tell me that you had a sister?
You will do exactly what I tell you, or I swear you'll pay the consequences.
Why do you threaten them with never seeing their father again?
These are not threats, darling. If I can't have Alejandro, then I should at least get the girls back.
The Amazons.